What is going on, folks? It is another podcast raised on real estate. We just finished one up yesterday, and this is October 13th. And we've got another guest coming in with us in a bit here. He's been on this platform before. Brock Zevan is coming up with us. So we got a lot of great stuff to share with you. Great information with all the things that are going on in real estate and everything else bound. And this is the Halloween month. So we're bringing in a little bit of that theme right now. So Greg Angelo here with you on a beautiful day in the South, and hope it's great where you are. Feel free to check out the last podcast that we did on the RORE Platform. Michael Curtis was with us talking about different types of mortgages in a much different real estate posture that we have right now. So this one's just rocking us right through. We're going to bring in our guest that has been on before. Brock Zevan is going to talk to us all about what's happening in the real estate world and what he's doing. So stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. And we're back with the one and only Brock Zevan, who is waiting patiently here in his own homestead. Brock Zevan, what is going on, brother? How are you doing today, man?
What's up, man? How are you doing today? You're absolutely right. It is a beautiful day here. No humidity and in the 70s, and the sun is out, and the weekend is getting closer and closer.
Well, this is a great time. I know a lot of people enjoy the fall in the South because our humidity is gone. The 90s are sort of like pushed out. I'm going to miss them. I am.
You are. You're that.
I was
you like
sad.
that heat.
I know. I like it. This time of the year is nice. It's just that I'm looking at the future forecast and I see some numbers starting with the 3, and that kind of is disturbing for me. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I don't like it when it gets that cold. I'm fine in the upper 40s, 50s, especially in the morning when I go for my jog. Like, I don't mind that, but yeah, that chilly weather, it can stay up north.
That's for sure. I'm already seeing that right now. I talked to a friend of mine up there that's in mid-Michigan area, so they've had some frost and all that. Here we are. We're back again, raised on real estate, and the last time that you were on, we had a really great conversation about winning your listing at the listing appointment.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that so many things have changed now. The market has changed. We just heard some news that we are flirting with 7% mortgage rates right now. And we're in sort of this slip sliding posture in real estate. We've seen home prices on the decrease. And so part of the conversation I like to have with you today is, one, you've been moving a little bit more on the buyer side. We normally do listings, but on the buyer side, what does it look like now from where it was before? And I know we touched about that just a little bit before the introduction, that, we had this sense of urgency that if you don't get your offer in, we got to get this stuff done, because if we don't get it in by 5 p.m., we're going to lose out. And I don't think that we're in that, that mindset now. So like to talk about what the buyer is experiencing now, going out looking at homes versus what they were before. And then we want to talk a little bit about what's been happening with you and everything that we've been doing on mindset motivation, Monday through Friday, 8:15. And then we had this great conversation. I brought it up earlier on our podcast yesterday about the BZ3 program. We'll talk about that as well. But anyway, let's get started. Everyone listening, we appreciate you being here. And Brock, let's hear what you got to say about, I'm a buyer. What's my position right now?
Yeah, it is definitely changed in the last 6 months. It's a good opportunity to talk to your buyer clients now that were very disgruntled, not very happy. Most people do not like to be rushed. 62% of society in the DISC analysis personality test make up an S and a C, which are very detailed oriented. They don't like to be rushed. They want to do their due diligence. And so those people were not very happy buying during a market where, like, hey, you got to buy a house and be ready, and you need a lot of money up front. And it was just like, you got to make an offer instantaneously. And it was challenging for them. And it sounded very salesy as a real estate agent. And so those things are not really existing. Now, it doesn't mean that they are not gone. There are homes out there still getting multiple offers, depends on price point. But for the most part, in the Charlotte MLS, I was saying it this morning on one of the earlier calls that we did with our mentee coaching program, my Power Players program, that there are now, it's been 22 days in a row that there have been more price decreases, a higher number of price decreases than new listings. And so that number indicates to us that we are seeing more of a shift in our market. It also indicates that the days on market are going longer. So as a buyer, when you go look at a property, you don't have to have that feel to be rushed. Now, as a buyer's agent, how does that make you feel when you got to go take buyers out now? What would you say to that, Greg?
Well, that's a good question. I would say that, we really have to be smart about how we're going to come in and craft our offer.
Mm-hmm. And we also have to be very patient. That speeding personality, like, we gotta do it, we gotta do it. What do you got? Like, you have to approach it a lot differently. Now, I believe that there's a little act to this, meaning that at the same token, you don't want to go back out to what we were doing and showing property 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 days of nonstop showing property. I don't know about you, but the gas prices still aren't to where they used to be. I mean, they've gotten better, but they haven't fully corrected themselves. And so it's still an expense to keep driving around. It's still an expense, sacrifice your family sacrificing that you're not at home in the evenings on the weekend, because that's primarily when you mostly go do these appointments. So you still have to set the stage and set the expectations, because if not, guess what those buyers will do? They'll run you around all day long and be like, well, I don't know yet, blah, 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 blah. This house doesn't have this. So all these little things come into play. So when buyers are out, you have to, one of the questions, this is the number one question I ask during my buyer consultation. The question is, for those taking notes, if you found the perfect property today that matched every single criteria, would you make an offer today? For my listing side is, what price point won't you go below? Okay. Buyer side is, if I find you the perfect house that matches everything you need in your criteria, would you make an offer today? If they immediately tell me yes, then I move them into like a category like, this one's hot and heavy, and I'm going to work a little bit harder with them. If they tell me, well, I don't know, it just depends, we've been seeing a lot, we'll just see what happens when we get out there, I'm going to be wasting my time to some extent. So as an agent, I have to be cognitive, like, okay, if I go out today, I better not go show for 4 hours. I immediately take my time and I adjust it to a 2 hour increment. I also strongly recommend all agents that you shouldn't show property more than 2 hours, and you shouldn't show more than 5 homes during your time period, because things start to blur and your brain cannot differentiate between the two, and you'll start to hear them say, now, which house was that? Was that the one? Was that the second or the third? And then what happens is too many homes come into play, and then they're gonna be like, we're gonna have to go back to that house. And there's nothing wrong with doing that. But at the same token, if you're valuing your time period and making an offer, you got to be able to figure out your order of operations. If not, you're going to get frustrated, and your frustration will share with your client, and then your client's going to start feeling that. And so when you're balancing buyers right now, everybody, you got to make sure you have your ducks in a row. You set your expectations, as well as, I always, 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 number one rule is, you always call the listing agent before you go out there. You got to call the listing agent.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
If you have five, that's why you don't show more than 5 homes, because you're not going to call, like, if you're trying to show 10 homes, how long is it going to take you to call 10 listing agents? It's going to take you more because you're already rushed. Most people are trying to like get it all in. They're trying to set it up. They're trying to work on the schedule. You're trying to do your printouts. You're trying to make sure you look really good. And you're trying to do all this stuff as an agent, but you're not doing the most important thing, and that's calling the listing agent to ask them what's the most important thing to the seller. Do you have any other offers on the table? How, what is the mindset of a seller looking like? You know what my question is now to sellers, listing agents? Here's my number one question. Nobody knows about this question. I just started asking it. How many more days are you thinking you're going to do a price improvement?
Mm, okay. Yeah, good one.
It's a question I started to ask people. How many more days until you're thinking you're going to do a price improvement? Because a good listing agent has already had the conversation. And I know the weekends are a point. So on today, I was supposed to meet with some investors, and I already knew two properties, and they were above 250. So they were at 255 and 259. What do you think their next price improvement would be, Greg? Below 250?
I would think so.
Yeah, because it gets you
Absolutely.
another buyer audience.
And it puts you in a different price strategy too.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think when you do that? I'm now going to be fighting against the seller with negotiating that price. And now everybody else that just hit that price point in that difference. So now I got to fight against them. And is it very possible that could possibly be facing a price improvement problem now because they dropped it? So I don't want to deal with that. So when I call a listing agent, I say, okay, when do you think you might do a price improvement on this home? It's been on the market now for 10 days. I know the market's crazy. Have you talked about a price improvement plan with your client? Yeah, they're getting a little antsy. Now they're telling me what's going on with the seller. They're giving me information by me asking a question. What's your price improvement timeline? Now, I don't know about you, but that's pretty important. That helps your buyer client out. Be like, listen, if I present you an offer and we don't have to get to that next, get something over to you and we can negotiate a little bit, would that interest you? Done it twice. Both went under contract, didn't have to fight. I didn't have to fight multiple offers. I didn't have to have a high due diligence to be able to get into that period.
I want to go back to what
Mm-hmm.
you said when this started because it was really important. Here's what I picked up on because we know that when we do a listing presentation, a listing pre-qualification, basically what you said to the buyer is what we say to the seller. That is, if everything makes absolute sense to you, will you list the home with me? And so what I wrote down when you said that about the buyer is who is in control?
Mm-hmm.
Because how many agents are going to get in the car and then follow their buyers, and they're the ones that are saying, let's do this, let's do that. I want to look at this one, I want to do that one. And so why is it important now to have the control over your buyers? Why is that important?
Well, because they'll run you ragged, and I mean, when the buyers feel in control, their chance of making a decision is reduced because they're like, well, I don't know, and it might sound strange. Well, Brock, they're in control, but see, I know statistically that most people aren't going to make instantaneous decisions. That's why I asked the specific question: if you find your house today, would you make an offer? Because I'm pushing them in a position to see what they're going to do today. I need to know where their temperature is at because then they are going to control the rest because they're going to we don't we like oh, thank you so much, Greg, for showing me all 5 homes today. Yeah, what's your schedule like tomorrow? I think we're going to find 4 more. Oh, that makes sense.
100%. Exactly. And that is spot on because if my position is that number one is that on the receiving side, on the listing side, we have an expectation when they're coming out to that appointment. Because I think it's probably fair to say that on our feedback, probably the one thing that most sellers don't like to see is just the one click that says not interested.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what in the world is that? But the other thing is this is that, like you just said, your time is important to you. So if you don't take control of your buyer, then you're going to be doing more than showing 5 homes in a day. You could be dealing with them for the next 3 to 4 months and they still haven't made a decision.
Well, here's what most agents don't know: they don't know their value. Why do I like listings? Because my dollar per hour is much higher as a listing than it is a buyer. So when buyers going out, they just don't understand that, like, I'm gonna, like you said, 6 months, right? Well, if you're taking them out going over and over and over again, and you're on 3% on a $300,000 home, you're at 9 grand. Then you got your splits, you got your fees, you got whatever else, your taxes. Then you start breaking it down. And then if you taken them out for the last 5 months, compared to me doing my due diligence, asking the right questions, and I only take them out for 2 days, who has a better hourly rate? So it's the value of what you do by understanding the right questions to ask to see what the temperature is with this buyer to say, like, hey, this one's a hot and heavy. I'm going to spend a little bit extra time. Well, Brock, you only said 2 hours. Yeah, but this one said that if they find the property today, they would make an offer. So I might have to do 3 hours today, but I don't have to go back out again. And I called all the listing agents and I know which one might be doing a price improvement soon. So then I say, hey, I just want to let you know, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, I spoke with Johnny B over here, the seller agent. If they don't have a house, if this is not under contract on Tuesday, they're going to do a price improvement. If they do a price improvement and this is the house you really like, we are going to possibly get into multiple offers because we're in a totally different buyer price point here. Are you willing to wait? And do you want to go to that? Or do you want to try to do it now when we don't have to fight anybody else and we can negotiate just directly with the seller? See, I had that ingredient like, I didn't think about it like that. How do you know that? Well, because I asked the right questions to the listing agent to be able to give me the information for me to share. Does that make sense to people? Does that, like, by asking these questions helps you push, and I don't want to say push, educate the buyer to make a faster decision because that's the home they want, but they like control and they might be like, well, we want to look around some more. Well, maybe this is their dream home. And if they wait 7 days, they might miss it.
Absolutely. Here's what I want to move this now because you're driving them around, you're showing them homes, they have a property, and this is the one that they want to make an offer on. Mm-hmm. And now you already said that as a buyer agent, you've reached out to the listing agent. Now, you can tell me in your experience over all the listings that you've had, how many times on average on one of your listings does the buyer agent reach out to you? And I will tell you that on the one property that we have up in Moxville, that only one agent out of all the showings reached out to me. But I'm the one that's reaching out to them because I want to qualify that buyer before they come to the property because I don't want to waste anybody's time, especially my client's time, because they want an offer to get this property sold. And so we can talk a little bit about that, but also now you're sitting down with them and you're working out your buyer offer strategy on the due diligence fees, the earnest money deposit, and as you said earlier that, this is not you're not in a rush. So how are you going to craft that together and what's the conversation sound like?
So to answer your first question is, very seldom do buyer agents call me. Very seldom are they asking me questions. It doesn't happen very often. Most of the time I do. I have to call them, ask them, reach out to them because my client wants some information. And so we have to be a little bit more proactive in this industry. And people can whine, complain, and do whatever, but it's just part of the job. At least that's how I look at it. Your second one is, how am I crafting a buyer offer? Well, it goes back to calling the listing agent again and asking the question, what's the most important to your seller? Now, one of the things that I'm really, really seeing out there in the Charlotte world is that a lot of these institutional buyers are now institutional sellers. And what you really need to make sure of is when they purchase this, most institutions are what? Cash or financing, Greg?
Cash.
And there's an FHA restriction that as soon as they purchase the property, they cannot accept an FHA offer for 6 months. Mm-hmm. Is that important to know when you're taking your buyer out? You better believe it, because FHA loans are now getting back into play, and you go and show this buyer and they love it. And then they're like, oh, I'm sorry. We can't put an offer in unless you became conventional, but we can't do this for another 3 months. Well, you could have prevented that by doing your homework. So the first thing as a buyer agent, when you're crafting, is you got to make sure you know what financing you have and the financing that seller is, because in Charlotte, we see a lot of institutional sellers now because they are unloading what is taking place because they're seeing the writing on the wall. What's happening is the market is not dropping, it's correcting itself. And so that's part of it, is the prices are reduced. That's why price decreases are happening. But that's important to know when you're going out there as a buyer, to be able to take a look to see, what do we have? USDA is 100%. Make sure you understand that. So I hammer down on the financial piece. The second rule of thumb is when you take the due diligence and earnest money in the state of North Carolina, every state is different depending on what they have, but you're typically looking at 1% of the purchase price is what you're putting down. That's what I educate my buyers on. And I typically do in our state when you have 1%, and we'll just keep numbers easy at 300,000, it's at $3,000. I like to keep at least 75% of that on the earnest money because that is refundable, and 25% on due diligence. So I start in that capacity of what that looks like. So for us, it's where I'd be doing $1,000 due diligence, $2,000 earnest money, which kind of gets me to that ratio. Now, they might fight me on it and say 50-50. I don't really care. But see, and the reason why is because they just know 1%. Money doesn't change when I have to shift due diligence and earnest money. The only thing that changes is liability of how much money they potentially could lose. But when they see the house, it's much easier to have that conversation. I'm like, guys are asking for an extra $500. What do you think? No, we really like the house. We're fine with that. So it's important to set that up beforehand of, hey, it's usually 1%. I don't tell them what direction I'm really going to go in yet until I get to it, but they just know inside their head, $3,000. Okay, not a problem. And then I go through it, but I got to find the house that they like because there's an emotional attachment and I have a better conversation piece at that. So that's the first thing I'm carving out. So that takes care of due diligence and earnest money. The next is just looking at the timeline. So when I ask the listing agent what's important to them, they might say time. I did one where we had to do a lease to purchase after closing for a month. Okay. So it all depends on what works for both the buyer and the seller. And what I try to tell people all the time is you want to create, in the book, Stephen Covey, I believe he talks about it. One of the 7 habits, 7 effective things is creating win-win situations. It's not going to work if you create a lose-win or a win-lose. It's very difficult to negotiate. So I always state, I just did one recently where we were the seller and we did a counter offer to the buyer. And I said, we would like to offer you a win-win situation. Would you mind me explaining? Like I say that to make them be like, well, yeah, that sounds really good. I mean, who doesn't want a win-win? So I state that when I'm having conversations with the listing agent, hey, I got a win-win situation here. This is what we're coming in at. And I start explaining to them where it is. I try to explain my offer before I write it. Because guess what most listing agents will tell me indirectly without them even knowing, it comes right out of their mouth. Typically something that they weren't expecting. They might say something, hey, I want to create a win-win situation. Here's where I'm at. This is what we're going to offer. This is what we're going to do. Well, Brock, they really are looking for this. I didn't ask that question, but they'll tell me something ahead of time without them knowing because I had a conversation. I think most buyer agents forget that and they just want to go to their cell phone and text and they want to email. The power of sales is talking. That is the power of sales. That's the power of converting, is being able to say stuff and then listening. God gave us 2 ears, 1 mouth. We like to think it's the opposite, and we don't ever listen. So it's very important to understand that when I'm carving my offer, I need to know what the seller wants. I make that of importance. I create a win-win, and I present it the best way that I possibly can in the situation that I'm in, within the time period I need it to be in. And we constantly are communicating through the negotiating process, but I try to talk as much as I can.
And I totally agree with you. So at least on the price, let's talk about that. Because when we were doing the offers in the high demand market, I mean, we really didn't know where the ceiling was, right? We knew that due diligence was important. The more due diligence that we brought in to some degree would, give us a better leg up on our offer, and also how high over asking would we put in. So if your buyer now says, well, you know what, Brock, I've been looking all over the place. I'm watching the news and the media's telling me that the economy's going this way and we're in a recession and home prices are going down. And I know this home is $300,000, but no, I want to come in like at 220. Let's go there. And you already had a conversation with the listing agent. And
right.
So how do you now change you're flipping it. You're going for when the buyer would say, well, Brock, I mean, how high do we have to go over asking? I mean, this is insane. The house is $300,000. Do I really have to go up another $50,000 to get the home? So now we're in a different parallel. So how do you now talk to them? Because you don't want your offer to be thrown in the garbage or insult the seller, right? Because that could happen.
Yep.
So what do you do?
So in this situation, and you guys are gonna be like, man, he keeps saying the same thing, but it is the same thing because we just forget this really important piece. I don't do it first, but part B to my answer is I call the listing agent. Okay, that's part B. So I'll answer the end first, be like, call a listing agent. I'll explain it here very shortly, but I do call the listing agent. Part A of it was my conversation to the buyer. I just set the cards out to let them understand you want to offer, so it's what, 300 you said, and we're offering 220. And I take out the CMA, I take out my residential property report, I present it to them, and I say, in my professional opinion, I feel the value of this house, I agree, is not at 300, but I think it's going to sit someplace between 265 or 270 and 275. But you want to offer 220. And you can offer 220, but I want to ask you, how badly do you want the house? Okay. So that's the first question for taking notes. How badly do you want the house? Well, what do you mean, Brock? We run it really badly. Are you okay if you lose this house? I don't know. I guess so, maybe. Whatever they tell you. Because I'm about to set the stage to them, like, this offer you're putting in here is probably either going to be, well, it's going to be rejected. They might not respond. And then when you decide to come in with a price that you really want to put an offer in, they very well, and I say this, they could give you the middle finger and not even respond to you then either. And then we really are going to be screwed moving forward because they don't like you and they're not going to try to be easy on you and negotiate with you because you insulted them at this price. Now, if you want to do that, I certainly can. What I don't want to have happen, though, is I do this, I respond back and they say to me, Brock, the buyers say to me, Brock, how come they're not responding? Well, you insulted them, and so the seller said that they're not responding to you. What? They can do that, Brock? Did you know that? Well, I did, but I didn't want to tell you because you wanted 220. Brock, we would have offered something totally different if we knew that. So I don't ever get myself in that predicament anymore because then because I educate them and tell them every scenario. This is where I think you should offer it. This is where I think you could be. This is what you want to offer. And these are all the consequences or all the things that could happen, scenarios, I should say, not consequences, scenarios. So you and your significant other can make an educated decision on what you want to tell me to do. What is it that you like to do? Brock, we still like to do 220. Not a problem. I will do 220. So here's part B where I've already stated it. Miss Listing Agent Brock Zevan. Hey, I just want you to know that I'm about to bring in an offer that you're probably not going to be happy with me. Your buyer's not, or your seller's not going to be happy with me, and you're going to think I'm off my rocker. Okay. It is going to be an off the rocker type of offer, but I just need you to know it's going to come in at 220. I might as well just have the conversation with you now. I know it's extremely low and probably is going to piss off your seller. All I can ask is this: give me a chance to work more with it, because if they don't respond, I have nothing to work off of. I don't even care if you come in, it's 300 and you come in at 380 and you take $80,000 and go above price. Like, I don't care. I just need something so we can keep kicking the can down the road so we can create a win-win situation. And I don't know what that number is yet, but I do know that if they don't respond, I'm kind of at a loss and I have nothing to work from. So if you don't mind doing that for me, I really appreciate it. And just know that I'm not trying to, insult your intelligence or your price, but this is where I'm coming from. And I think it's important that you know where I'm at. Now, when they get the offer, how do you think the listing agent's now going to feel? They might have already talked to the seller already about it. Hey, here's that offer I was telling you about, guys. All right. Yeah, you told us about it. Listing agent's like, yeah, I knew this was coming in. It makes the conversation much easier when you don't blind somebody if you got to present a low ball offer. And your job is not to prove the buyer wrong. Your job is to get to a deal. So it's not like, told you so. No, you got to make sure that you're still creating that win-win, because you can't make any money by I told you so. Like, you can't say to the mortgage company, hey, here's what I'm paying, I told you so. Like, that doesn't work. So that's how I handle lowball buyers, what I've done in the past. And that's why I call listing agents again, because I set the stage with them and they do appreciate that.
That's great stuff. And so here's why this is all important. Because I'm sitting here, I'm listening to this, and I'm taking it in, and I'm saying this is really valuable information. And I wonder, in the way that I think, is how many agents out there are actually getting this kind of information. What do you think? You think this is a topic that agents are sitting around, with their teams? You think they're having this kind of conversation on a regular basis? What do you think?
I would like to say yes. Unfortunately, one of my favorite quotes with Jim Rohn is people work harder on their job than on themselves. So they're busy and they say that they're busy. Well, Brock, I'm doing appointments and I'm showing this and I'm at inspections and I'm doing this. And really it's only like one listing or one client, but they're out showing property. How many times people talk, I'm showing property, I'm showing property. I'm gonna be like, well, that's dumb. Like, how many times are you showing property? Like, I mean, and don't get me wrong, buyers, agents out there. I'm not trying to be mean, but I mean, I really minimize it. Like today, I was supposed to show property this morning, and we had a conversation. I said, listen, I don't think this is the best time to do this. And you don't have this in order. And what about this? And I think our rental is going to be this. I said, why don't we go show property on Saturday? Because here's why. I would have, if I wasn't educated enough, I would have shown property today because that's how Pop-Tart agents are. And they would have dropped everything else. And they would have said, I'm showing property today. I'm out here. And you would have saw on Facebook, showing property today. Take my buyers, investors out there. Here's me. Look at me, everybody. And then they would have come back 3 hours later with no offer, no negotiations, because the buyer really wasn't ready. And so now we're actually going to meet on Saturday. So I don't have to go out today and I will go out tomorrow. So I save myself time and energy because I knew the right questions. Man, listen, Gary, what about this? And how about this? And have you done this? And I think we need to do this. Oh, I didn't know that. Why don't we just do this all on Saturday? And you know what he says? That'd be better. I did ask the question earlier, but like to preface, because I always ask, are both parties going to be there? Never take only one person out. Never. Because they won't ever make a decision because you go out there and you're like, man, I love it. I'm ready to put an offer on it. Let me call my wife to see when she can come out here so you can bring her out here. Oh, I got to come back out here again. And we do. And we have our little time going out there. So you got to make sure both parties going to be there. And Gary's like, man, it's going to be so much. That's actually better because then my wife can be here. Yeah, I agree with that too. So it's very important that you guys understand that when you're going into this type of thing, because most agents are not practicing this. Most teams are not doing it because everybody's busy. Everybody's doing their work. Everybody's doing their job, but their job is not going to make them financially wealthy. Their job is going to keep them on a roller coaster because they're not staying consistent and they're not staying at the professional growth of understanding and learning, being able to do things. I've read off a couple authors, a couple people, a couple books I've read. You're a reader too, Greg. Why? Because I learned from past experience. I call that wisdom. I gain wisdom to make better decisions that I could pass on to my clients so I'm not wasting my time. So then my hourly rate is much better and people get all bent out of shape. Greg, you even said it too. I can't remember what I was saying, like, oh, I'm about $250 or $500 an hour. And you're like, I think you're worth more than that. And I remember that to a T because I was like, Greg has more value of me than I have of myself. Brock, that's a problem. You need to figure out what's holding you back. And that goes to limiting beliefs, which is a whole nother topic that I coach on. But that's my answer in a nutshell for you, Greg.
No, it's great. And the reason I'm asking you that question is because if somebody was sitting in a live webinar that they signed up for to get this information, I mean, we're doing this. You can go on our podcast, Raise on Real Estate. You can hear this whole thing. But this is what I call high-level information to get access. And so it's almost like I'm like a fly on the wall. I should be writing down everything you say because you can't get this information on the street. And so that's where I'm sort of leading this, is that you are doing so many things now in your real estate business because you're getting coached by a very high-level coach and all the things that you're doing. And so I want you to say right now to everyone listening is like, why is it valuable for them to actually have this kind of information, in a coaching platform that you're doing, and how can they receive this information from you other than just getting it on a podcast?
So a lot of times when people hear the free stuff that's there, there's another level, just like anything. I use the onion quite a bit. Like you take the onion and you start to peel it back, but you really don't start crying until you get to the core of the onion for two reasons. One, that's where most of the juices in the center is. And two, it takes some time before all the fumes start coming up to your eyes to start to cry. And that's when you really feel it. Okay. A lot of people open up the onion, they do their thing, and then they back away. Okay. What I've learned in my coaching platform and different programs and what my coaches teach me. See, I've been in real estate coaching majority of my life. Okay. I learned a lot. I've been coached up for the last 10 years and I learned a lot. And people say to me now, you're a little different now, Brock. Well, things are different when you go to different levels of coaching. Just like you get free stuff, you go to different grocery stores. You can, not going to say grocery store names, but there's some that are really expensive and there's some that are very cheap. I say it to all the time. When I buy fruit, I buy the most expensive fruit. Why? Is because my kids don't eat the fruit all in one day. It's usually there for a couple days. But how many of us say my fruit's rotten?
Yeah,
Well, that's
that's right. Yeah,
because,
that's right.
yeah, it's like, oh, it's rotten. I just got it. That's because you bought the cheap version of the fruit. In order for them, when they brought this fruit to the store, it wasn't refrigerated. They probably didn't have, they had it in like some sort of like bundle of like plastic. It wasn't taken care of. It wasn't maintained. Where the expensive fruit was refrigerated, it had blankets over it. It had special like nutrients put on it. So then that way, when I have my fruit, it lasts 5 days and I can have it for Bryce for his raspberries and they're still fine on Friday. Well, you pay for what you get. And so when you coach and the people that I'm coaching with, I spend thousands of dollars now a month to be coached by them, but I get a lot of information. And so my coaching program of BZ3 Enterprises is what it does is it gives you a taste. Wow, he sounds like he knows what he's talking about. I get it. Like, okay. But now then you dive even deeper into it to like, let me explain to you what I'm really saying to the listing agent at a very higher level. Let me share with you my three questions that I'm asking that I will get more information out of to be able to expedite this process. Because if I'm able to take your hourly rate from where most people are in this industry of a W-2 employee is probably 15 to 23 bucks an hour. And if I can get you to 250 to 500 bucks an hour because you're getting buyers or sellers and you're not spending as much time doing it, I'm like, gosh, I just made 200 bucks an hour and I only worked on this project for 15 hours. I don't know about you, but nobody's going to get upset. So I've learned how to cultivate hourly rate. I learned how to monetize to be able to put money back in people's pocket by the education that I'm learning to be able to pour into it using the BZ3. But also what we've also learned with coaching is you have to have different programs. So we have efficiency of time program. We have power players program. We have one-on-one program. We have the black belt of personalities because I had several people now with my black belt personality that I did that want to know more about FISBOs, right? You're on the phone all the time. We learn from each other by being next to each other. Okay. If people could be next to us when making the calls, they would probably appreciate that. Well, there's a cost to that by being able to do that, just like I have a cost of being next to my coach. I texted him this morning, and his statement to me was, how many times are you moving? Meaning, what else are you doing next? How many movements are you doing in the right direction? I knew what he meant by that by his one little text, which made me like, it's higher level. Because to me, we don't need to say a lot. Are you moving? What are you doing? Are you moving the right direction? Are you moving backwards? You've been hearing me say, are you running towards something or running away from something? You're still running, but which direction you want to go in? And so I think that's the biggest difference in our coaching programs is we're intimate, we're very detailed, and we find ways to immediately make you money because in the coaching program world, no matter what people try to say, if we don't make you money with our company in 3 months, you will fire us and you will say something bad about us because we did not do and put money in your pocket. And instead of what I talked about this morning, it's either blame, procrastination, or excuses. They will blame us, even though they should look in the mirror. But that's part of our job is to be able to help them recognize that and to put money in their pocket at a very fast pace.
And so, those that are listening right now, you have been doing this, which is the mindset motivation call. We've been talking about it. And even this morning, you started this over 2 years ago. You're the only one on with one other one with Mike Kastner. And so now it's grown. And now you're flipping a switch, a new switch, to develop just exactly what you're saying in more of a intimate coaching platform with different layers. And so those that are listening right now that want to get more about it, like, how can we get access to this secret room that you got going on right now?
So the best thing that I tell people to go to our Facebook page. We have a lot of moving parts right now with our website. That our website has different programs. And so what we're trying to create right now, because things have been going so fast, Greg is actually one of our leaders in our coaching platform. And we are developing things on the go. I told them yesterday at our lunch with our leadership team, and like I'm thinking of things as the day goes. My brain goes very, very fast, and different ideas and different programs and different things take shape. Sometimes we're cultivating and creating it because the need and the shift is happening so fast. You'll notice that I've never said today how to put foreclosures under contract. I never said today anything about how to put in high due diligence offers. Like those are long and gone. So we're always adapting and changing. So what we try to do is we try to take some programs, like efficiency of time is one of our biggest programs because everybody has time management problems. They don't realize it. And so that's one of our programs that are very important. FISBOs and expireds and understanding personalities, the black belt of personalities. That's another one that's important. So we're always adapting and changing. So our Facebook page, Brock Zevian's Mindset Motivational page, that is the best place to go because that is constantly. We actually just I have hired two virtual assistants. One of them primarily is just working on my social media and on our Facebook page, constantly adding content. And we're going to be seeing more and more content. And the best way to do it really right now is to direct message me and somebody, either one of my virtual assistants, somebody on the team will be reaching out to you to be able to help you. Wendy, one of my partners, she does goals and accountability. So sometimes it's just having conversations of where you want to grow. What does that look like? And then we put a plan into place. It might be like, hey, it looks like you over here, this is your needs analysis. Okay, I got that. That makes sense. All right, you need to go talk to Greg. Greg's really good at this and helping you out with this and has this. He's the right fit for you. Because everybody has a different personality. Everybody has a different goals and sets. And like most people aren't crazy like me. So you don't want to deal with me because you're going to be like, wait, he's way too much. Like, I don't want to get up at 4:35. I don't want to do this. I don't want to stay up late. Like, I just asked him if he can get me one more deal. And now all of a sudden I'm supposed to do 100. Like, so it doesn't work for everybody, but we have a different program that matches everybody's needs. So that way they feel that they're getting what they want. So our Facebook page, the Brock Zevan's Mindset Motivation Facebook page is the best place to go right now to be able to get information. And then you can direct message me on that. You can also look me up on Facebook, Brock Zevan. You can get there, get that. And then I send you over a link, which is our strategy call. It's a 15-minute call with me personally on a strategy call for me to help put you in a better position to see what your needs are and to see who I need you get in front of.
It's good stuff.
Thanks,
Uh,
man.
so,
It's crazy, man. People like I'm telling you, I have even my family. I just got a text from my uncle today. He said he saw what I was doing. He's like, "Man, are you okay? See, don't overdo it." See, that's when I know that I'm in the right spot when people start telling me don't overdo it. Because that's when I know when I talk to these people, like it was $10,000 for me to go in this coaching class. And I was like, I was having like jitters just thinking about. I'm like, oh my God, 10,000. I don't even like, where am I going to get this? How am I going to do this? I got this going on. But I knew I had to be in this room. I knew it. And whether what you believe in or not, but I knew God was telling me, you belong in here. You need to be in this room. And I went into that room. And I tell you, it's changed my mind. It's changed my mindset. It's changed how people look at me. And hopefully people are like, I need to be around this guy. I don't know what he's got. He's crazy, but he pushes me. He does things for me. He's like around that right environment. I was talking to Christian on our team, and I said to me, "Tell me what your environment looks like." And he was trying to figure out his way. I've had 4 phone calls of people who are off track. Literally, no joke today. 4 people who are off track. and we had conversations on how to get back on track. But you have to understand that you got to have purpose and you have to have drive within you and you have to have the right people on your bus to be able to help you. I can't do this alone. Greg, that's why I was like, Greg needs to be here. I need to have Greg on my bus. Christian needs to be here. Sandy needs to be here. Wendy needs to be here. I need to have people in my bus to be able to help me get to where I want to grow just as much as you do, Greg. I'm sure you
Absolutely.
have people that help you.
Oh yeah, well, absolutely. But I think that's what people need to understand is they have to take that step forward because that's what you did. And when you said that, when you went to Nashville, it's like you saw something that you never saw before, and it had such a huge impact on you. And if you wouldn't have gone, if someone else would have told you, you know what, why'd you want to spend that kind of money to go there for that? I mean, what are you really going to get out of it, Brock? I mean, you can just watch something on YouTube. You read a bunch of books. You know what? Why do that? But look what happened because you took the step forward to do it. And a lot of people won't do that. We talk about it's because of fear. So in the last minute or so we got here, we got a great amount of information on here. I'm going to tell you folks, I've been in this business for a long, long time, and you cannot find information like that, like what you just heard right now. And this is value. It's huge value. And so I encourage everyone right now we're going to have the link up on the platform on where you can get it on Buzzsprout, anywhere else, Spotify. It's all there. We'll have the link for you. You need to join us on the Mindset Motivation Call because this is a snippet. This is an extraction of what you hear. You know, what Brock is giving right now in his 35, 40 minutes, this is his time, and he's giving away valuable information that you can't get out there. And so this may be the last time. I know we love doing these podcasts, but we're going to have to do it a little bit differently because it is important for people to understand that, like you said, you can't get something for nothing. That's my 2 cents on that one. Other than that, I was talking to Michael Curtis yesterday about Halloween costumes, and I was talking about Isaac got his. Now, what's going on with your kids? What are they going up by? Are they dressing up for Halloween this year?
So Bryce wants to be Super Mario Brothers, like Mario. So he's going to be Mario. It changes though. First it was a ghost, then it was a pumpkin, and now he's Mario. So we'll see what happens next week. Brielle, I wish I could explain it. All I know in this world that we live in, there's YouTubers now. And so she is a female YouTuber. I couldn't tell you the name of the YouTuber. I don't think I've ever seen the YouTube. Well, I've seen the YouTube because I seen her watch it because I needed to make sure that it was okay for her to watch. But outside of that, I don't know what she is. And I don't know what I am, but Wendy is very big into Halloween. So I just kind of wait for her to tell me what I'm going to be. And then I go, I go get well, she typically even gets the costume and then I just show up. So that's what I got. What are you going to be? You going to be anything? What's Isaac going to be, you said?
So I think he's going to be one of the Sonic. He's not going to be Sonic, but there is another person in that Sonic family that he's dressed up at. Now, this is what I brought up yesterday, because he'll get the Halloween costume 2 weeks ahead of time. And I said that for those of you that have children that get the Halloween costume, do not give it to them. Don't do it. You got to wait, because Isaac had, I don't know how many pieces of this Halloween costume that was all over the place. I mean, we couldn't even find half the pieces, and our one dog, Casada, she's running around with part of it in her mouth, and by the time Halloween comes, in another 15 days, it's going to be worn out. He's going to be crying. He's going to be upset because his costume isn't when he got it arriving. So be patient. If you order him now, just hold it back, put it in the closet, and lock the door. Right. Because I can tell you that one year we had to get 3 different Halloween costumes because he was wearing out the other ones every single day. And by the time Halloween came, he didn't want to wear it because he was tired of it. He's like, "Why? I've been wearing this all month. Why do I don't want to wear it now?" That's that. So for me, I'm just gonna go as me, because that's what I'm working on. I'm still working on me, and that's that. So, but anyway, listen, man, I appreciate your time very much. I know you got a lot more going on for the rest of your day today. You got still a jam-packed day for you, so we appreciate you. Thanks for coming on the platform again, and can't tell you how much this information just gave, how much value is here. right here.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you very much as always for having me on here, and all the best to you as well.
Absolutely. Great. We want to thank everybody for being here on the platform Raised on Real Estate. We hope that this resonated with you. If there's something here that has touched you in a certain way, we want you to come back. We want you to go on the platform and click on the link. We'll have it for you in the Mindset Motivation and all the things that we're going to be doing in the future. It's going to be fantastic, and we want you to be part of it. For Greg Angelo, Raised on Real Estate, take care of one another, be kind to one another, love one another. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.